In the shadows of war's fading echoes, the earth still hides its unspoken truths. Locked vaults, scorched papers, nameless corridors, each concealing fragments too dangerous to surface. What was buried was never meant for daylight, yet whispers persist. Convoys that vanished without trace, laboratories unmarked on any map, voices silenced behind steel doors. Here, history bleeds into rumor, and rumor seeps into fact. The deeper we look, the more we find the silence is deliberate, and the darkness carefully maintained. On the night of 7th April 1945, as the Allies closed in on northern Germany and Soviet artillery battered Berlin, a little-known naval operation unfolded under the codename Rügen. Surviving fragments of Kriegsmarine dispatches reference a convoy departing from Kiel Naval Base, comprised of 2 Type 1C U-boats and 3 auxiliary transports, escorted by elements of the 2nd Destroyer Flotilla. The cargo, according to heavily redacted German naval manifests, was under the custody of SS Technical Unit V7, a division tasked with safeguarding advanced weapons research. The documents that survived the war, some retrieved from captured Wehrmacht teleprinter lines, others preserved in British Admiralty intercepts, refer cryptically to pressurized cylinders, sealed containers, and special biological material. The significance of these terms became evident when cross-referenced with testimony collected during the Nuremberg trials, where scientists of the Reich's clandestine aviation programs spoke of turbine assemblies, exotic fuel prototypes, and the transfer of materials associated with biological field trials. The convoy slipped out of Kiel under heavy camouflage, avoiding aerial detection by moving only under the cover of night and cloud cover, heading north toward the Kattegat Strait. It was never seen again. Allied reconnaissance flights from RAF Coastal Command recorded faint radar echoes in the vicinity of Lesho Island, followed by nothing, no wreckage, no distress signals, and no survivors. British naval files classified under DEFI 3902 suggest the Admiralty tracked unusual shortwave transmissions in Morse sent from the convoy. In the spring of 1945, when the US 6th Armored Division liberated Buchenwald, combat engineers and intelligence officers carefully documented every structure of the sprawling camp complex. Yet among the hundreds of pages of field reports and photographs, one section is conspicuously absent from official schematics: a cluster of reinforced barracks and workshops northeast of the main camp, known to surviving inmates only as Annex D. The Annex did not appear in SS architect Hermann Pister's blueprints, nor in requisition lists for camp construction materials. Inmates interviewed in 1945 under CIC interrogation claimed prisoners were occasionally marched through its gates, never to be seen again. Curiously, guards stationed there did not wear Waffen-SS insignia, but Luftwaffe uniforms, their presence confirmed in the personal diaries of camp survivor Ernst Dittmann, who recalled aviators with silver piping, speaking in technical jargon, watching transports with an unusual vigilance. Post-liberation sweeps of the compound revealed industrial machinery smeared with aviation fuel, steel fittings resembling pressure chambers, and disassembled fuselage components bearing the Messerschmitt log. In July 1947, a counterintelligence corps report filed from Frankfurt traced a series of rail shipments between Augsburg and Weimar, corresponding with the timeline of Annex D's activity, involving sealed crates labeled Material Hochdruckversuch, High Pressure Experiment. By cross-referencing Luftwaffe RLM records, investigators linked these to research on high-altitude pressurization systems, a project overseen by Dr. Hubertus Strughold, later quietly relocated to the United States. Under Operation Paperclip, when CIC officers attempted to pursue the prisoner records tied to Annex D, the files were abruptly classified under Removed by Authority, Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency. Years later, fragments of testimony from survivors suggested human beings had been subjected to hypoxia and decompression tests in those sealed rooms. Experiments designed to study aviation survival thresholds. No complete record of the prisoners selected exists, and the SS transfer logs covering that period were destroyed before American entry. The Annex itself was bulldozed by Soviet forces in 1946, when Thuringia fell under their occupation zone, erasing the last physical evidence. Yet references to Buchenwald Annex D trials appear scattered in Soviet NKVD interrogation summaries of captured Luftwaffe doctors, kept in Moscow's archives until the 1990s and later withheld from public release. Today, the surviving US files consist of half-redacted memoranda and correspondence marked SCI, subject to control of intelligence, their contents suggesting not only war crimes, but also a deliberate Allied effort to suppress knowledge of the site in order to exploit the research for Cold War aeronautics. The name Annex D, never meant to appear on paper, remains a ghost entry in Buchenwald's topography, a shadow facility whose victims disappeared without record, absorbed into a chapter of aviation history officially erased from both German and Allied accounts. On 12 August 1944, Soviet Naval Command at Polyarny reported irregular radio traffic originating beneath the Arctic ice sheets north of Novaya Zemlya. The transmissions, captured on shortwave frequencies normally used by Kriegsmarine U-boat wolfpacks, did not conform to standard operational call signs. Soviet codebreakers at the 8th Main Directorate of the NKGB noted fragmented Enigma encrypted messages referencing Morgenrot, German for Red Dawn. The phrasing did not match any known Kriegsmarine codenames, and further analysis revealed coordinates pointing to a rendezvous zone in the Kara Sea, far outside the operational range of conventional supply lines. At the time, Grand Admiral Karl Donitz had ordered all remaining U-boats to consolidate in the Atlantic to resist intensified Allied convoy routes, making such Arctic deployments highly irregular. According to a declassified 1962 KGB memorandum, the Northern Fleet dispatched destroyers, Gremyashchi and Razyaryony, to intercept the suspected submarine on the night of 14 August. Radar contacts confirmed a single vessel shadowing the ice pack, but before engagement was possible, it dove beneath the surface and vanished. Reports from watch officers describe an unexplained surface action without shell fire but accompanied by detonations beneath the waterline, suggesting either scuttling charges or the release of unconventional weaponry. No wreck was recovered, despite Soviet hydrographic surveys in 1945 and 1946, though fragments of metallic debris were catalogued and later sealed under the classification Special Technical Property. During Cold War exchanges, the incident was omitted from naval history, overshadowed by nuclear rivalry and submarine espionage. Yet in the mid-1990s, researchers accessing Soviet archives briefly glimpsed cipher sheets seized from the body of a drowned German radioman found adrift days after the intercept. The documents, partially legible, contained phrases such as transport under Morgenrot authority and Directive Oberkommando, direct Berlin to Arkhangelsk corridor. Cross-referenced with surviving Kriegsmarine war diaries, there is no record of such an order, suggesting the mission operated outside the official chain of command, perhaps under Himmler's SS Sonderkommando, rather than Dönitz's naval staff. American naval intelligence later speculated the U-boat was transporting either sensitive personnel or experimental material toward neutral Sweden, using Arctic waters as concealment. Its disappearance, coupled with the absence of wreckage, has fueled debate among military historians. Was the submarine destroyed by its own crew to prevent capture, or was it absorbed into Soviet custody and hidden for political leverage? No official confirmation exists, and the last trace of Project Morgenrot remains buried in a thin file of redacted Soviet memoranda, its very mention suppressed from post-war Allied naval conferences. In October 1990, during the chaotic transfer of East German archives into federal custody, archivists at the former Stasi Records Agency in Berlin uncovered a reinforced steel safe marked only with the initials HVA Sonder. Inside were several microfilm reels bearing US Army Signal Corps labels and typed headers that read, Target Dresden, Operation Eclipse Supplement, May-July 1945. Operation Eclipse, the Allied directive for the occupation of Germany, was well documented, but Dresden was not listed among the designated occupation targets, raising immediate suspicion. According to archivist notes, the reels contained blueprint drawings of underground storage complexes beneath Dresden's Altmarkt and Striesen districts, accompanied by requisition orders for structural reinforcements signed by Royal Engineers in late May 1945, weeks after Germany's surrender. Witnesses claimed the documents referenced strategic material recovered under Anglo-American custody, stored temporarily before transport westward. This description echoed persistent rumors among Dresden residents that Allied convoys loaded with sealed crates departed the city in June 1945 under heavy guard, their contents never disclosed. Within days of discovery, the reels were sent to the Federal Archives in Bonn for cataloguing. On 3rd November 1990, a fire erupted in the Bonn archive depot, housing recently acquired East German materials. Official reports described it as an electrical fault, yet the blaze destroyed only a narrow corridor where the Dresden reels had been placed. No duplicates were ever recovered. Archivists who viewed the reels before the fire described them as containing references to transport lists marked with combined US and British command seals, and security notes regarding Saxon excavation sites. Some German researchers have speculated that Dresden, long assumed to be reduced entirely to rubble in February 1945, may have served as a covert Allied salvage site for seized Nazi technology, potentially linked to advanced optics, cryptographic, machines or uranium oxide stores known to have been transferred from Saxon mines. A British Foreign Office memo declassified in 2001 revealed correspondence from Air Commodore George Peary to the War Office stating, "Certain matters concerning Saxon recovery operations remain under seal. Premature disclosure could affect NATO cohesion." To date, Dresden's municipal records show unexplained requisitions of construction equipment in the summer of 1945 under Allied authority, though no public explanation has ever been provided. The destruction of the reels in Bonn has been attributed to coincidence. Yet among historians of wartime intelligence, the so-called Dresden Files represent one of the most conspicuous archival disappearances of Germany's reunification, an episode where fragile proof of a suppressed Allied operation was literally consumed by fire before it could be entered into the historical record. On 29 August 1945, just days before the formal surrender aboard USS Missouri, a classified US Naval Technical Mission Unit designated TMU-187 was dispatched to Yokosuka to inspect the wreck of the battleship Nagato, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto's former flagship. Unlike routine technical inspections, which were widely documented for other captured Japanese vessels, the mission's orders were routed through ONI's Section S01 and bore the stamp Restricted Ultra, a classification normally reserved for code-breaking intelligence. Surviving fragments of the unit's field notes, declassified in 1978 but heavily redacted, indicate that divers discovered a concealed compartment beneath the forward magazines, accessible only through a watertight hatch welded shut from the inside. The compartment contained multiple crates stenciled with both the rising sun emblem and a Black Eagle insignia, consistent with German diplomatic cargo markings. The inventory sheets were never released, but handwritten annotations in the margin mention radio oscillators, unorthodox origin, and strategic packets not catalogued. Naval engineers on site reported that the oscillator devices bore German patent numbers linked to Telefunken, a manufacturer heavily involved in radar and encrypted communications technology. Within 3 weeks, the Nagato was towed to Bikini Atoll for atomic testing during Operation Crossroads and destroyed, eliminating the compartment and its contents. An internal ONI memorandum dated 14th of September 1945, preserved in the Naval History and Heritage Command archives, references technical transfers conducted in Tokyo Bay 1944-45 under Kriegsmarine Japanese Naval Staff agreements, suggesting that Axis collaboration persisted even as the war was collapsing. Yet no mention of such exchanges appears in the Japanese Naval Staff wartime diaries, raising the possibility that the compartment had been deliberately hidden from their own command structures. Eyewitness testimony from Petty Officer Charles V. Bennett, deposed in 1952 during Senate hearings on classified research, corroborated the existence of sealed cargo taken from the Nagato and removed by destroyer tender. Bennett's testimony was later stricken from the official record, his account dismissed as inconsistent under questioning. What little remains are references to Black Chamber, Tokyo Bay, in scattered Oni traffic summaries, possibly alluding to an intelligence compartmentalization codename. By the early 1950s, as Cold War tensions escalated, US defense contractors began developing high-frequency oscillators, eerily similar to those described in the suppressed field notes, yet no patent filings trace directly to American inventors of that period. The coincidence has led historians of intelligence to suspect the Nagato's hidden cargo may have been absorbed into classified US research streams, its German-Japanese provenance deliberately erased. Today, no wreckage from the compartment exists, no official acknowledgement has been made, and the very term Black Chamber of Tokyo Bay survives only in a handful of censored documents, an erased archive of a final wartime collaboration submerged beneath layers of Cold War secrecy. Long after the cannons quieted, the secrets remained, sealed in crates, submerged in wrecks, smuggled across borders under false insignia. Each discovery leads not to closure, but to another locked room, another vanished file, another trail ending in ash. Perhaps the war never truly ended, but simply shifted its battleground into the archives, where memory itself is weaponized. And as the curtain falls, one truth lingers. The past was not erased, only hidden, waiting to be unearthed.